my name is Ashley Williams, and I will be doing my senior capstone presentation. Here with me, I have charge nurse LaMonica, Antonio, Miss Ransom, who is the nurse here, and Miss Renee, who is the CNA. I will be discussing management and prevention of MRSA transmission. All right. The purpose of this evidence-based practice project proposal is to explore adequate measures to manage and prevent the spread of infectious diseases, particularly among the inpatient population within the hospital setting. The desired outcome is to improve the quality of life and provide safety to patients and family members by decreasing the spread of infectious diseases. Okay. Infectious diseases are essentially caused by germs that have the potential to kill. Of course, we're going to talk about MRSA, but however, there are several types of infectious diseases. Do you know any, Ms. Hill?
C. diff.
Yes.
Influenza.
Correct. Shingles. No one. I won't be me. So, MRSA is caused by a type of staph, and it is resistant to many antibiotics. MRSA can be healthcare associated or community associated. Healthcare associated could be residing in a long-term care facilities such as a nursing home, just being hospitalized in general, as well as any invasive procedures. Community acquired can be living in close proximity to sanitary conditions such as prisons or military barracks. Community acquired can also be skin-to-skin contact sports. Okay. MRSA is detected by bacterial culture that results in 3 to 5 days. Okay, so what are the objectives of this proposal? To bring awareness to the management and the prevention of infectious diseases. Again, there are many types of infectious diseases, including C. diff, tuberculosis, shingles, chickenpox, influenza, but we're going to focus on MRSA. Also, to reduce hospital-acquired MRSA transmission and infection control compliance. Any questions so far? Okay. Rationale for the project. So, why is the topic important? This topic is important because of the number of patients that present to the hospital with MRSA, whether known or unknown. Why is change warranted? Because unknown causes of MRSA puts the patient at risk, the nurse at risk, and other patients at risk. And screenings for MRSA may not be initially done on each individual with open wounds. What changes need to be made? Continued awareness and proper hand hygiene are the first and most important resistant against MRSA transmission. So the problem, again, several patients present to the hospital with MRSA, known or unknown. They have these open wounds with MRSA in them. The nurse cares for these patients for several days, doing direct care, direct wound management. Of course, we use the standard precaution. However, certain PPE is required with MRSA. So this is just a picture of wounds with MRSA. Infected wounds usually are reddened, have some type of drainage, And the physician may not always order a culture unless the wound has drainage present. That does not mean that the wound is not contaminated or infected with MRSA or any type of other infection for that matter, but normally the physician doesn't order culture unless there is drainage present. Okay, again, the current hospital policy states that only screenings can be performed with a physician's order. And like we just stated, the physician may not always order a culture on these wounds. Not all open wounds screened, and then in some cases, not all individuals that present with risk factors are screened. So just because you live in a nursing home or military barracks or a prison, you may not be screened for MRSA. Okay, the PICO question. The P stands for the population, the problem. The I is the intervention. The C is the control, and the O is the outcome. And this is just a formula that's designed to put the question in a way that is can be answered through researchable. For patients with open wounds and unknown MRSA requiring wound management, does the use of PPE for contact precaution plus effective hand hygiene reduce the risk of transmitting the MRSA compared with utilizing just standard precaution? Okay, evidence for change. I researched the first article utilized the CHG to prevent the transmission of MRSA. And this article presented two forms of CHG. The first form was the solution using the basin water method to bathe the patient. The second method was the prepackaged cloths to prevent MRSA transmission. And the end results were that the utilization of CHG did decrease MRSA transmission. However, one was found to be more effective than the other. The second article that I researched talked about the regulatory agencies such as the Joint Commission and the CDC. And these agencies just provide guidelines for proper hand hygiene and infection control, and it's stated that adhering to the proper guidelines and policies also decrease the transmission of MRSA. So as far as the CDC, does anyone know how many seconds to wash your hands according to the CDC?
20 seconds.
That's right. That's right. It used to be 15. Some people still say 15. So we're in the process of educating on that at one of the facilities I work at. And again, the purpose of this study was to promote interventions and evidence-based strategies to reduce hospital-acquired transmission. There was a decrease in the acquired infections, including minimizing the spread of MRSA with the utilization of the correct performance of hand hygiene. So if you're going to do it, you're going to do it right. All right, the last article that I researched also studied the utilization of the CHG. This particular setting was in the intensive care setting, and the purpose was to utilize the new hand hygiene protocol, which was washing with the CHG to prevent the transmission of MRSA. So, in summation of all three articles, we discovered that there was a reduction in the transmission of MRSA through compliance with proper hand hygiene and utilizing the CHG in the form of CHG. Research indicates that continued awareness and proper hand hygiene are the first and most important resistance against MRSA transmission. Okay, so personal obligations. Bring awareness of the prevalence of MRSA and the need to comply with evidence-based methods to reduce the spread of MRSA and promote qualitative care to achieve desired patient outcomes. The purpose is to ensure the patient safety, providing patient education as well as staff education and protection against contamination. All of this benefits the team members, the patients, yourself, and as well as your family members. All right. So for my recommendations, we talked about MRSA and the spread of MRSA. What was the initial problem that was presented?
Patients presenting to the hospital with wounds and not being aware if they were infected with MRSA or some other type of infection, but MRSA mainly.
Good. Somebody was listening. So the problem that I'm presenting is the number of patients that come to the hospital with these open wounds, and they have MRSA and we don't know about it, and we're providing direct care, and days later find out that they had MRSA. So in efforts to solve this problem, I'm proposing that we screen every patient on admission. Remember, current hospital policy was that we can only screen patients with a physician's order. I would like for our facility to adopt standard protocol that we screen every patient with an open wound to prevent this from happening. As well as with direct wound care, just with the wound care only, that we put on the proper PPE for contact precaution versus just utilizing standard PPE. Go ahead and put on the gown, gloves, and mask, and dispose of the removed dressing properly. This would reduce the transmission of MRSA. So do all this until we get the results if the patient actually has it or doesn't have it, and then we get treated and use standard precaution. Proper hand washing and disinfecting any contaminated surfaces. A lot of times we go in and bed rails or remote control, any of the patient's belongings could be contaminated because, you know, if you have a wound or it's your own personal wound, you may not see any harm of just touching around it. You don't know if it's infected, and you can touch other things, and that puts others at risk as well. And then education. All right, so quick review. What I'm proposing, screen all open wounds on admission, use contact PPE with dressing changes, proper disposal of the removed dressing, and compliance with hand hygiene. Studies have shown that, you know, a lot of times team members will omit that step or try to cut corners for various different reasons. If they are overwhelmed or they're short staffed, there's just one less step they have to take. But hand washing and complying to the guidelines is the first barrier of preventing you from getting anything. So, evaluation of the project. How are we going to know if this works? So, the first step is to keep a log, collect data on the number of patients that present to the hospital with MRSA, as well as the number of patients that have hospital-acquired MRSA. Keep a log from month to month and do quarterly reports, and the purpose is to compare, and the goal is to see a reduction in the number of hospital-acquired MRSA. Time frame. So it would take approximately a few days, 1 to 2 days, to present my proposal to staff and administrative staff. However, it could take a couple of weeks for the proposal to get approved. Upon approval, we should, next step is to educate the staff of the benefits of the change and the compliance. Upon approval, the third step would be to go ahead and implement this change, put this protocol into place. This will take a couple of months, approximately 3 months, to make sure everybody understands the protocol, that they're following through and doing the protocol. The fourth and final step is following through, following up, continuing to educate and staff, and that should be an ongoing thing. Okay, expected outcomes. Of course, I expect to bring awareness of the prevalence of MRSA, a reduction in the number of hospital-acquired transmissions of MRSA, compliance to infection control, and continually educating healthcare workers on evidence-based recommendations, such as infection control and cost effectiveness. With the cost effectiveness, it may not seem cost effective to screen every individual upon admission for MRSA. However, it is cheaper to do that versus having to treat patients that get hospital-acquired MRSA, because the hospital will not get reimbursed for that. So, conclusion. Of course, managing and preventing the spread of MRSA within the hospital setting. Early detection. Early detection is key. It's key for the individual that has MRSA, because we can go ahead and give them adequate treatment, so there's no delays in their treatment. It's also key because it brings awareness to the staff. That way we can put on the proper PPE to prevent transmission. I propose to screen all patients with open wounds upon admission, and let this be a hospital policy. And then again, it may not seem cost effective to screen every patient, but the hospital does not get reimbursed for these wounds. You have any questions?